Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter. I'm sitting at the 50-yard line here at Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders just got pounded by the Chargers 34-20, and it wasn't even as close as the score sounds. The Raiders were in it. They were competitive, had a great chance to win this football game, and then literally had a brutal interception by Aiden O'Connell that ended up being a touchdown and a two-point conversion by the Chargers, and was over. Was absolutely over from that point forward. There was nothing they could do to get the momentum back from the Chargers. It was a brutal loss to the Bolts. The Raiders finished 4-13. Clearly, what a terrible job I did with predicting the season record. In 5 years of doing this, 3 of the years I was tremendous. Two of them within one game, one right on the money, one that was bad, and then this year just horrible. Absolutely horrible. And I own it. I take full responsibility for it. There are a lot of things I could recap just the game, but that's not really of any sense. I think there's a genuine sense among Raider fans of relief tonight that this season is behind them. Having said that, I quickly want to go to something that has nothing to do with what happened on the field. My beautiful wife Shannon and my Dexter Ernest Wayne was with me today. We went through Lot J and literally just talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of Raider fans and met many of you. And I just want to thank you for being so gracious and kind and nice. And I respect that and appreciate it. It was great to see so many of you, to hear your stories. One guy said to me, he goes, I love this team. I've loved them my whole life. And he got really emotional, and he wasn't drunk. And he got really emotional. He's like, tanking would probably help us even if we don't get a quarterback, but I just can never root against my Raiders or hope my Raiders to lose on the field. I just can't do it. It was a really emotional day. The tailgating lots were really empty. I mean, there was a lot of people there, but not like it usually is. Not what it was like in Oakland. It never has been here, but it was empty, and a lot of thousands of empty seats today here in the building. But I wanted to recognize those people. So where are the Raiders? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. What's the future of AP? I do not believe that is the biggest question surrounding the Raiders. They have to figure out who they are before they do anything else. Now, perhaps they've already done that and made up their mind. I'm going to share this with you. As you know, over the years, my 5 years, and tomorrow will become 6 years, I've covered the Raiders. I have given you consistently very good inside information on whether or not AP keeps his job. This is not Hondo's opinion. I can tell you that people who have been trusted sources in this organization are almost split down the middle on whether they believe he's coming back or not. I would say a slight majority, 55%, if I was putting a number on it, 51, however you want to parse it, think that he won't. But there's a lot of people who've been very good sources on both sides who feel both. And I've said to each of them, I don't want to know your opinion. I want to know, what do you think happens? What do you feel is going to happen? So I think this one is, I still believe, and I said this the other day, it's not me calling for it. I still believe at this point right now that probably that will happen. But just because of the number of people I've spoken to, but it's not me advocating pro or con. It's just me telling you the situation and the reality of where it is. The Raiders have a ton of questions. Um, I want to say this. I made the comment earlier. In fact, if I can find it, I would like to read it to you. Because you know me, I own everything that I say. And I wrote this earlier. Um, uh, this is about Aiden O'Connell. And I said, since Luke Getsy was let go, Aiden O'Connell play has built off of last season and vastly improved his play. 100% truthful. The conversation could be very different today if Scott Turner had been the OC all off season. In my opinion, the Getsy hire was catastrophic to this organization. I believe there were a couple decisions catastrophic. I'm going to get into those when I do my postseason deep dive. But I want to make a statement. I do believe in his play in training camp was not good with Aiden O'Connell at all, but neither was Gardner's. And it has gotten better starting with the game at um, Kansas City. But still today, even though his play was improved, that one interception was brutal on him. The Bolts get 8 points out of it, and that's on him. It's on him. And here's what I can tell you about Aiden. Aiden would tell you that. Aiden's not going to be mad at me for saying that. And if he was, I would still say it because it's my job. But I know Aiden well. He's not going to be upset with that. That's the fact. And so I think the conversation could be a lot different had he started at the beginning of the year and they rode that horse all season, barring injury. But the point of the matter is they didn't. And so where the Raiders sit right now is you may be in the camp that you think Aiden's the guy. You may be in the camp you think there's no chance. Here is the camp I am in. He's not the guy now, and he may be it, but we don't have enough evidence to say he is a QB1. And I don't know that we have enough evidence to rule him out completely. And so in this league, which is all a QB driven league, if you're not sure, you have to keep drafting. You have to be going through free agency or whatever you have to do. You have to keep to accumulate players to win the football game. That's what this game is about. It's all based on football, on quarterback play. Period. You saw tonight, Justin Herbert stepped up. Man, did he make some plays. He's matured. He's been allowed to be in the system and grow. He's much better quarterback than he was even last year. Big credit there to Jimmy Harbaugh. But at the end of the day, if I'm Mark Davis, and clearly we know I'm not, you have to be sitting here saying, until we know with Aiden, and if we know he's not, you cut him. And if we're not sure, you got to keep him. You let the guy compete unless you either go sign a proven free agent or get somebody for him to compete with. That's the reality of the situation. But none of that matters until they determine who they want to be. Period. They have to find that identity. As I sit here tonight, this is too good of a football team to be handled be 4-13 when it comes to talent on the roster. Now, you absolutely cannot talk about the season and not talk about injuries. That's not fair. But you also can't talk about the season and not talk about blunders, massive blunders. I'll address a lot of them in my deep dive on the season. Have not even started to go into it, but it's going to go back to OTAs and minicamp. And there were warning signs then. There were also some potential positive signs. We're going to talk about all of them. And I'll get into that at a later date, but not now. The point now is this Raider team, they should be angry today. You know, the year that Rich Bisaccia was here, at the end of that year, they could have felt good about themselves. They should have felt good about themselves. They should have. They got all the blood out of that turnip. That's a saying in Michigan. I don't know if it's a saying where you live, but I know I'm in Vegas. But that means they did everything they could. They wrung all the water out of that washcloth. But this team today, everyone who's part of this team should be angry. Okay, let's look at IPM, Isaiah Palomar. Played like an absolute rock star. I talked to them about it in the locker room. Still angry. He's like, no, I appreciate it, but it doesn't matter how good I played. We didn't win. Patrick Graham has been amazing since he put on the silver and black. I asked him about, I'm sure you watched the video at his press conference on Thursday about, he's done a good job, but does he want to come back? I haven't done a good job. We haven't won enough. The people who are part of this organization tonight and they're not angry, mad, bothered, ticked off, You don't want them here. Now, I'm going to make a big statement, and I'm going to write an article about it this week, but it's a very big statement. In the 5 years I've covered the Raiders, every offseason that we go into, it's who are the Raiders going to keep? Talking about free agents. And this is a dichotomy this year. This is a juxtapose this year. This is a zenith transformation this year. Because you got some really good players now who I believe, they have not told me this. It's based of years of experience. Years of experience based on education. There's going to be a lot of good players here now that are going to really ask themselves, do I want to be here? And not because they disrespect the franchise and not because they disrespect the players. You have good coaches. Patrick Graham. Dear God, if the Raiders let him walk. If he leaves, which I think if you go watch his press conference, you can probably surmise there's a pretty good chance. It's a huge blow. You know, part of the reasons Patrick Mahomes is so good is obviously he's extremely talented, but he's been in the system for years. There's no continuity here other than on defense. And your defense has played really well all year. I mean, it's not the defensive fault that Aiden makes a terrible interception and they score 8 points. It's not on them. And so you're going to have coaches, you're going to have players who all ask themselves, do I want to be here? Now, I'm going to tell you something. Not one of them would not want to be here because of the fans. Not one of them would not want to be here because of the facilities. Not one of them wouldn't want to be here because of the money and the tax situation. It's because, as a fan, how many times have you been ticked off when you see players that don't seem to care? They're just cashing a check. I took a little bit of criticism today on Twitter, and I don't have a problem with it. And it was somebody that said, and I wish I remembered who, because I'd read their tweet because they were not disrespectful. But they just said, you know, Hondo always tells us about these guys fighting, scratching, crawling, and playing hard. Well, they're supposed to. I agree. I I don't think you give them a participation trophy because they played hard. They're making a lot of money. They should play hard. But I'm telling you this, in decades of doing what I do for a living, it's rare. I know it shouldn't be. I know it shouldn't be, but it is. It's rare. And so I mention it because it is rare, even though it shouldn't be. I hope you appreciate that. I was with my son Dexter the other day, and somebody stopped me and they go, man, I think it's really cool how attentive you are as a father. Isn't it sad we have to give fathers praise because so many aren't good fathers? I wish we were at a place where we don't have to credit people for doing what they should do. But sadly, it's the human emotion, it's the human reality. And so I don't think that person was attacking me in the least bit. I thought they were making a fair statement, but it is rare, so that's why I mention it. You want players that when you are 4-12, they're fighting, and these guys fought. You want players that when the back's against the wall, there's no quit. There's no quit. There are good players on this roster. I can think of, I'm going to leave some off, but I mean, you start looking at Jink, you start looking at Adam Butler. I mean, Robert Spillane is a superstar. Okay. TRE'VON Merrick's a guy that's going to be, and there's so many others. I'm just going to stop. Really good players. And you got the cap. You're going to have to re-sign Max. And all of a sudden now, the Raiders are going to have to make some tough decisions because they're going to have to sit down and sell some of these guys. Hey, you want to be here. You got a lot of options. Everybody I just mentioned to you is going to have options. And every one of those guys are winners. And there are others. I'm not just talking about them. There are others, winners. These are guys they want more than just a paycheck. And dadgummit, Raider Nation, isn't that what you want? Don't you want a guy like Patrick Graham that, okay, it's great. I'm glad that I have a good job and I get paid a lot of money. But what's the path to winning? I'm just telling you, this is the first offseason since I've been here where the question isn't who the Raiders want. It's who wants to be a Raider. And this is where there needs to be an introspection of the franchise. And let me tell you something. I have been very blunt about this, and I will not waver from it. Regardless of the criticism I get, I don't care. Mark Davis is going through a metamorphosis. And Mark Davis is more like those guys. And I guarantee you tonight, that's going through his head. Who do we want to be? What are we going to be? And maybe he's already gone through it. And how do I get there? How do I get there? I'm going to say something to you, Raider Nation. And I want you to write this down and I'll be held accountable for it. It is December the 5th, 2025. I believe 3 years from today, you will reflect on today. So on January 5th, 2028, and either today will be a turning point in your franchise, or it's going to be a point where everyone was like, we just nosedive. To me, there's no mediocrity from this. You either set your face like a flint, find a direction and go, or you wallow in a commitment to mediocrity. And I did not come up with that term. Somebody sent it to me on Twitter, and I don't remember who, or I would credit them. So the only way I can credit them is to say it wasn't a Hondo original. I think this is a turning point right now. I think this is a T in the road. Raiders got to go right to success or left down to just complete and utter mediocrity. And if they go to the left and the decisions made fail, they're in a lot of hurt. They're in a lot of hurt. There's a reason I'm in Lot J. There's a reason I tell fans I'll meet you 2.5 hours before the game at away game press entrances. You guys are my bosses. I love to read your emails. I love to talk to you. I love to know what you think and what you feel. You care. You matter. And this fan base cares. But I'm going to tell you the good news. As frustrated as you are, your owner is too. But being frustrated is not the answer. The time for frustration is over. This is a time for answers. Right now. Right now. Answers have to be determined. That's where we're at. Fascinating times. Absolutely fascinating times. And tomorrow I start my 6th year. And we're going to learn a lot. I believe the 6th year is going to be, especially the 6th offseason, is going to be the biggest of all of them. We shall see. I just want to say something as I finish my 5th year. Thanks to all of you. You don't have to listen. You don't have to read. You don't have to watch. You choose to. I'm not entitled to you. I have to earn it every day. And just like my prediction, which was woefully terrible, and I own it, I believe at the end of every year we have more hits than misses. And I do my job to the best of my ability to treat you with integrity and character and to be that as a reporter. I'm going to say something. You deserve better. And so does Mark Davis. But now it's his job to fix it. It is going to be a fascinating offseason, and I'm going to walk it with you every single day. Thank you for the privilege of being one of your beat writers. God bless each of you. Happy New Year. See you tomorrow.